Hello, everyone. You are welcome to our wonderful channel. Now we will be sharing how to easily and simply make delicious and mouth-watering tomato soup at home in the comfort of your kitchen. Sit back, relax and enjoy. Please subscribe to our channel and share the video, if you have not. Creating a delicious and comforting tomato soup at home is a wonderful way to enjoy the rich flavors of ripe tomatoes and aromatic herbs. Whether you prefer a classic creamy tomato soup or a hearty chunky version with vegetables and herbs, making tomato soup from scratch allows you to customize the flavors to your liking and enjoy a warm and satisfying bowl of soup any time of year. In this comprehensive guide, we'll explore the step-by-step process of making tomato soup at home, covering everything from selecting the best tomatoes to enhancing the flavor with herbs and spices. By following these detailed instructions and tips, you'll be able to create a delicious tomato soup that will delight your taste buds and warm your soul. List of contents to be shared. 1. Introduction to tomato soup. 2. Essential ingredients for tomato soup. 3. Selecting the best tomatoes. 4. Aromatics and flavor enhancers. 5. Liquid base, broth, cream, or coconut milk. 6. Herbs and spices. 7. Cooking techniques, stovetop, blender, or slow cooker. 8. Creamy versus chunky tomato soup. 9. Serving suggestions and accompaniments. 10. Storing and reheating tomato soup. 11. Troubleshooting common issues. 12. Variations and creative twists. 13. Recipes for tomato soup. 14. Conclusion and final thoughts. Introduction to tomato soup. Tomato soup is a classic comfort food dish that is loved by people of all ages. Its rich and tangy flavor, combined with its smooth and velvety texture, makes it a favorite choice for lunch, dinner, or even as a light snack. Tomato soup is also incredibly versatile, allowing you to customize the ingredients and flavors to suit your preferences. Whether you prefer a simple and straightforward tomato soup or a more complex version with added vegetables and herbs, making tomato soup at home is a satisfying and rewarding experience. Essential ingredients for tomato soup. To make tomato soup at home, you'll need the following essential ingredients. 1. Tomatoes. Choose ripe, juicy tomatoes for the best flavor. 1. You can use fresh tomatoes when they're in season or canned tomatoes for convenience. 2. Aromatics. Onions, garlic, and celery form the flavor base of tomato soup, adding depth and complexity to the dish. 3. Liquid base. Tomato soup can be made with a variety of liquid bases, including vegetable or chicken broth, cream, or coconut milk. 3. The liquid base adds richness and creaminess to the soup. 4. Herbs and spices. Fresh herbs such as basil, thyme, or oregano, as well as dried spices such as paprika, cayenne pepper, or Italian seasoning, can be used to enhance the flavor of tomato soup. 5. Cooking fat. Olive oil, butter, or cooking spray is used to sauté the aromatics and add flavor to the soup. Selecting the best tomatoes. When selecting tomatoes for tomato soup, choose ripe, flavorful tomatoes for the best results. Here are some options to consider. 1. Roma tomatoes. Roma tomatoes are a popular choice for tomato soup due to their rich flavor and meaty texture. 1. They're also less juicy than other varieties, which helps to create a thicker and more concentrated soup. 2. Vine-ripened tomatoes. Vine-ripened tomatoes are another excellent option for tomato soup, with a sweet and tangy flavor that pairs well with the other ingredients. 3. Canned tomatoes. If fresh tomatoes are not available, you can use canned tomatoes instead. 3. Choose canned tomatoes that are labeled whole peeled or crushed for the best flavor and texture. Aromatics and flavor enhancers. Aromatics such as onions, garlic, and celery are essential for adding depth and complexity to tomato soup. Here's how to use them. 1. Onions. Peel and chop onions finely for sauté in the soup. 1. Cook the onions until softened and translucent before adding the other ingredients. 2. Garlic. Peel and mince garlic cloves finely for maximum flavor in the soup. 2. Add the minced garlic to the sautéed onions and cook until fragrant. 3. Celery. Wash and chop celery stalks finely for sauté in the soup. 3. Celery adds a subtle sweetness and depth of flavor to the dish, complementing the tomatoes and other ingredients. Liquid base, broth, cream, or coconut milk. The liquid base of tomato soup adds richness and creaminess to the dish. Here are some options to consider. 1. Vegetable or chicken broth. Vegetable or chicken broth adds depth of flavor to tomato soup, enhancing the natural sweetness of the tomatoes. 1. Use homemade or store-bought broth according to your preference. 2. Cream. Heavy cream or half and half can be used to add richness and creaminess to tomato soup. 2. Add the cream towards the end of cooking to prevent curdling. 3. Coconut milk. Coconut milk adds a creamy and tropical flavor to tomato soup, making it a great option for dairy-free or vegan diets. 3. Use full-fat coconut milk for the best results, and adjust the amount to your preference. Herbs and spices. Herbs and spices are essential for enhancing the flavor of tomato soup. Here are some common options to consider. 1. Basil. Fresh basil adds a bright and aromatic flavor to tomato soup, with hints of sweetness and peppery notes. 1. Use whole basil leaves or chopped basil leaves according to your preference. 2. Thyme. Fresh or dried thyme adds a subtle earthy flavor to tomato soup, complementing the other ingredients and enhancing their natural flavors. 2. Use thyme sprigs or dried thyme leaves sparingly, as the flavor can be intense. 3. Oregano. Fresh or dried oregano adds a pungent and slightly bitter flavor to tomato soup, with hints of citrus and pine. 3. Use oregano leaves or dried oregano leaves according to your preference. Please subscribe to our channel and share the video, if you have not. Cooking techniques: stovetop, blender, or slow cooker. There are several cooking techniques you can use to make tomato soup, including stovetop, blender, or slow cooker methods. Here's how to make tomato soup using each method. 1. Stovetop. Heat oil or cooking fat in a large pot or Dutch oven over medium heat. 1. Add the chopped onions, garlic, and celery and sauté until softened and fragrant. 1. Add the chopped tomatoes, broth, herbs, and spices, and bring the soup to a boil. 1. Reduce the heat to low and simmer, covered, for 20 to 30 minutes, or until the tomatoes are soft and tender. 1. Use an immersion blender or countertop blender to puree the soup until smooth, then return it to the pot and stir in the cream or coconut milk. 1. Season with salt and pepper to taste, and serve hot. 2. Blender. Follow the same steps for sauté the aromatics and cooking the soup on the stovetop. 2. Once the soup is cooked, allow it to cool slightly before transferring it to a blender. 2. Blend the soup in batches until smooth, then return it to the pot and stir in the cream or coconut milk. 2. Season with salt and pepper to taste, and serve hot. 3. Slow cooker. Place the chopped onions, garlic, celery, tomatoes, broth, herbs, and spices in a slow cooker. 3. Stir to combine, then cover and cook on low heat for 6 to 8 hours or high heat for 3 to 4 hours, until the tomatoes are soft and tender. 3. Use an immersion blender or countertop blender to puree the soup until smooth, then return it to the slow cooker and stir in the cream or coconut milk. 3. Season with salt and pepper to taste, and serve hot. Creamy versus chunky tomato soup. Tomato soup can be made in a variety of textures, from creamy and smooth to chunky and hearty. Here's how to achieve each type of tomato soup. 1. Creamy tomato soup. For creamy tomato soup, puree the cooked soup until smooth using an immersion blender or countertop blender. 1. Stir in cream or coconut milk to add richness and creaminess to the soup, and season with salt and pepper to taste. 2. Chunky tomato soup. For chunky tomato soup, leave the cooked soup as is without pureeing it. 2. You can also add diced vegetables such as carrots, celery, or bell peppers for additional texture and flavor. 2. Adjust the seasoning with salt and pepper to taste, and serve hot. Serving suggestions and accompaniments. Tomato soup is delicious on its own, but you can also serve it with a variety of accompaniments to enhance the flavor and texture of the dish. Here are some serving suggestions. 1. Grilled cheese sandwiches. Serve tomato soup with grilled cheese sandwiches for a classic and comforting meal. 1. The combination of warm and gooey cheese with crispy bread is the perfect complement to the rich and tangy soup. 2. Croutons. Top tomato soup with homemade or store-bought croutons for added crunch and texture. 2. You can also sprinkle grated Parmesan cheese or fresh herbs on top for extra flavor. 3. Fresh herbs. Garnish tomato soup with fresh basil leaves, parsley, or chives for a pop of color and freshness. 3. The aromatic herbs add a bright and herbal flavor to the soup, enhancing its overall taste. Storing and reheating tomato soup. If you have leftovers or want to make tomato soup ahead of time, here's how to store and reheat it. 1. Refrigerating. Allow the tomato soup to cool completely, then transfer it to an airtight container and refrigerate for up to 3 to 4 days. 2. Freezing. To freeze tomato soup, allow it to cool completely, then transfer it to a freezer-safe container or resealable plastic bag and freeze for up to 3 months. 2. Thaw frozen soup overnight in the refrigerator before reheating. 3. Reheating. To reheat tomato soup, place it in a saucepan or microwave-safe dish and heat gently until warmed through, stirring occasionally. 3. You can also reheat soup in the microwave on low power in 1-minute intervals until heated through. Subscribe to our channel and share the video, if you have not. Troubleshooting common issues. If you encounter any issues or challenges while making tomato soup, here are some troubleshooting tips to help you overcome them. 1. Too watery. If the soup is too watery, you can thicken it by simmering it uncovered for a few more minutes to allow the liquid to evaporate and the flavors to concentrate. 1. You can also add a slurry of cornstarch and water or flour and water to the soup and simmer until thickened to your desired consistency. 2. Too thick. If the soup is too thick, you can thin it out by adding more liquid such as broth or water until you reach your desired consistency. 2. Adjust the seasoning with salt and pepper to taste, and serve hot. 3. Bland flavor. If the soup is lacking in flavor, you can enhance it by adding additional herbs, spices, or aromatics such as garlic, onion powder, or red pepper flakes. 3. Taste the soup as you go and adjust the seasoning according to your preference. Variations and creative twists. While classic tomato soup is delicious on its own, you can also experiment with different variations and creative twists to customize the dish to your taste. Here are some ideas to consider. 1. Roasted tomato soup. Roast the tomatoes, onions, and garlic in the oven before adding them to the soup for a deeper and more intense flavor. 1. Drizzle the vegetables with olive oil and season with salt, pepper, and herbs such as thyme or rosemary before roasting. 2. Spicy tomato soup. Add heat to tomato soup by incorporating spicy ingredients such as chili peppers, hot sauce, or crushed red pepper flakes. 2. Adjust the amount of spice according to your preference for heat level. 3. Creamy tomato basil soup. Add fresh basil leaves to tomato soup for a bright and aromatic flavor. 3. Puree the soup until smooth, then stir in cream or coconut milk to add richness and creaminess to the dish. Recipes for tomato soup. Now that you've learned the basics of making tomato soup at home, here are some delicious recipes to try. 1. Classic creamy tomato soup. A rich and velvety tomato soup made with ripe tomatoes, onions, garlic, and herbs, finished with a splash of cream for added richness and creaminess. 2. Chunky tomato vegetable soup. A hearty and satisfying tomato soup loaded with chunky vegetables such as carrots, celery, and bell peppers, simmered in a flavorful broth with tomatoes and herbs. 3. Roasted tomato basil soup. A flavorful and aromatic tomato soup made with roasted tomatoes, onions, and garlic, blended with fresh basil leaves and finished with a swirl of cream for a luxurious touch. Please subscribe to our channel and share the video, if you have not. Conclusion and final thoughts. Congratulations! You've successfully learned how to make tomato soup at home, exploring a variety of ingredients, techniques, and creative variations along the way. Whether you prefer a classic creamy tomato soup, a hearty chunky version with vegetables, or a roasted tomato basil soup with fresh herbs, the key to making delicious tomato soup lies in the careful selection and combination of ingredients and the use of cooking techniques to develop rich and complex flavors. By following the detailed instructions and tips provided in this guide, you'll be well equipped to create mouth-watering tomato soup that will warm your heart and satisfy your soul. So gather your ingredients, fire up the stove, and get ready to enjoy the comforting and delicious flavors of homemade tomato soup. Please subscribe to our channel and share the video, if you have not. If you enjoyed watching, please subscribe to our channel. Subscription is free and does not cost money. Have you subscribed now? Okay, I will wait for you to subscribe now. Thank you. Do not forget to like the video, share the video, comment down below, watch recommended or suggested videos on your screen, tap or click notification bell, so that you would be notified each time we upload new videos. Please subscribe to our channel and share the video, if you have not. We say a big thank you for watching and see you in our next video. Happy cooking!